Now, there's good news and bad news for Ukraine. First, the good news. The European Union has agreed to open membership talks with Ukraine. The doors to EU are now officially open for Kyiv. Here comes the bad part. Hungary still stands as a hurdle. Prime Minister Viktor Orbán has firmly opposed Ukraine's accession. He's also blocked a financial aid package for Ukraine. Now, on paper, Ukraine is a step closer to joining the EU. But is it really? Or is this move simply an eyewash? Why am I saying this? Because of the fact that ultimately the decision will have to be unanimous, and much to Ukraine's distress, it's highly unlikely that Hungary will agree. To understand this better, we'll have to look at the membership procedure. Let me break this down for you. The European Union was formed after the Second World War. The trading bloc had a bold ambition. That was to prevent another war between Germany and France. Its 6 founding members were Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands and Luxembourg. Since then, the EU has steadily expanded to contain 27 democratic nations, and it is open for others to join. But the membership procedure is a rather complex one, to say the least. The European Union has certain conditions for membership. This majorly includes stability in the country, guaranteeing democracy, the rule of law, human rights and respect for minorities. Then, the aspiring member should have a functioning market economy. Lastly, it should align with the EU's political, economic and monetary goals. Once a country checks off all of these boxes, it can send a membership application to the Council. The Commission then assesses the applicant's ability to meet the criteria. Based on its opinion, the Council decides on a negotiation mandate. After this, negotiations are formally opened on a case-by-case basis. The applicant country needs to go through a lengthy process. Its laws and standards must be aligned with those of the bloc. It will also have to prove that its institutions and economies meet democratic norms. Once the EU is satisfied, it signs an accession treaty with the country, officially offering it the membership. Once the date laid down in the treaty arrives, the country formally becomes an EU member. Simply launching the negotiation talks requires approval of all of the current members. This is the stage Ukraine just cleared. But how did it happen? Now, in a surprise move, when it was time to voice objections to opening the negotiations, the Hungarian Prime Minister got up and left the room. Despite having the option to veto, he abstained from the vote altogether, allowing Ukraine's membership talks to begin. But why is Orbán so opposed to Ukraine's entry into EU? First off, he's seen as Putin's closest ally in the bloc. He boasts strong ties with the Russian president. Orbán has also delayed EU sanctions against Russia in the past. Under the pro-Russian leader, Hungary has tried to block Ukraine's entry into the EU. On what grounds? Number 1, corruption. Number 2, denial of rights to ethnic Hungarian community in Ukraine. You see, relations between Kyiv and Budapest became strained after Ukraine passed a law in 2017. This law, it required all schools to teach students in the Ukrainian language. Local Hungarians complained. They said it was a breach of their rights. But as Ukraine tries to meet the European Union's criteria, it's bringing about reforms. This month itself, Ukraine passed an updated legislation on minority rights. It has allowed the use of EU languages, including Hungarian, in private schools, universities, media. The Hungarian community leaders, they welcome the law. You see, Ukraine is trying its best to get into the European Union's good books, but it still has a long way to go. The talks are just the beginning. There are many steps. Negotiations to join the bloc normally take a decade or longer. Major reforms are needed to align a candidate country with EU rules and standards. Ukraine will need to radically restructure parts of its governance. It needs stringent rules in its economy, administration, and justice systems. Not to forget, Hungary will continue to be a roadblock whenever a consensus is needed. And President Putin, well, he would relish the cracks in EU support for Ukraine. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.